election night in America, one of the most consequential elections in recent history.
Donald Trump has won the presidential election in Kentucky.
Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Oklahoma. Missouri will go to Donald Trump.
It's clear now that Donald Trump has picked up key support among Hispanic voters, despite all the things that he said.
Donald Trump will win the state of North Carolina.
That the state of Georgia will go to former President Donald Trump.
The evening was getting increasingly somber as people realized what this map is looking like.
CNN projects that Donald Trump will win the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Kamala Harris is not winning.
So you won't hear from the vice president tonight?
News Decision Desk can now officially project that Donald Trump will become the 47th president of the United States.
Do you really think that the Democratic Party is fighting for you? The overwhelming answer is no.
That's right, I use ShoeOnHead's video introduction for my video introduction. What are you going to do about it? So let's get into this. ShoeOnHead made another video. It's called The Downfall of the Democrats, and it has over 500,000 views in 9 hours. Good for her. Let's see what she has to say. Why did the Democrats fail? Let's find out with ShoeOnHead.
Well.
Obligatory comment about her really fucking annoying editing. Okay, we're gonna get that out of the way now and then not comment about it for the rest of the video.
Well, what have we learned? Nothing, apparently. I regret to inform you, everything I predicted about the election in my last video came true and more. Men did overwhelmingly turn out for Trump, especially young men. But I was wrong about one thing. Young men weren't the only ones who came out in droves for Trump. Nearly everyone did. The madman took everything, every swing state, Pennsylvania, Georgia, my home state, New York, was closer to flipping red than Florida was to flipping blue. Turns out Dick Cheney as Brat wasn't the best message to win over voters. Dems did so bad it really had me thinking, damn, did we steal that election? So what happened here? How did it go so wrong? Is it too late for the Democratic Party, or can they turn this around? Will the Democrats learn from this, or will they double down and get worse? In this video, I'm going to go through all the excuses and the copes the Democrats and the broader left are coming up with to avoid accountability. Read some silly tweets, watch some silly news clips, and even give the Democratic Party some advice on how to win 2028. Don't worry, Republicans watching this. They won't listen. Maybe in 2050, under the barren Trump monarchy, someone might come to their senses, but not anytime soon. If you only—
So just one comment really quick. ShoeOnHead does consider herself a leftist. She does consider herself as someone that will want to target the capital structure that we have in America that leads to fascism. So she her response to fascism is we should be more progressive, we should be more left, we should be more socialist. So I'm curious to see if she does differentiate between progressives and left-leaning people and the Democratic Party establishment, because that's a pretty big difference, right? The Democratic Party establishment consistently ices out the social democrats in their movement. We saw Bernie get pretty much stabbed in the back twice in both 2016 and 2020, where the Democratic Party coalesces around the more establishment candidate in order to beat Bernie in the primary. And that has had some pretty drastic consequences because it's put the party in this position where now we don't have a viable, more progressive and socialist candidate.
I watched or read most mainstream liberal news, it really seemed like Kamala had this in the bag, which is why you should try to get
Not how you say her name.
Your news from a variety of different sources. Oh, that reminds me. Before we dive into this election dissection, let's give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, a sponsor I've been working with for over 4 years now.
Ground News. We have to have our news from a variety of different sources. Let me talk about my sponsor, Ground News. Wow, good job. Good job, ShoeOnHead. Seamless transition.
Ground News for sponsoring this video, and thank you, the viewer, for not skipping the ad.
Oh shit, I skipped
right?
it.
And now let's get back to this election dissection, shall we?
There's no point in saying good morning, because it certainly is not one.
From blaming
Okay, I haven't seen that Nancy Pelosi line. That was pretty fire. Come on, you cannot criticize that. I shouldn't say good morning. Or I'm not going to say good morning because it's not a good morning.
the American people to blaming Joe Rogan, the Democrats and the media are having a hard time coping with their loss, and I don't blame them. It was a pretty big loss. Embarrassing, quite frankly. Donald Trump overperformed in nearly every state, with basically every demographic, and the entire country seems to be shifting more red. Everyone was so sure dangerous, devious, dastardly Donald would never make his way back into the White House to steal democracy. And he did it. With democracy. Anyway, I got a lot of comments on my last video from new fags like, wait, you're left-wing and you hate the Democrats? Yeah, man, that's a pretty common thing. If you were shocked that I'm left-wing, maybe that's a sign you need to take a step back and evaluate some of the preconceived stereotypes you have of people. Not all of us are crazy blue-haired socialists, no. Some of us are crazy brown-haired socialists. But for those of you who are new here, hello, I am ShoeOnHead. If you ask the right wing, I am Stalin. If you ask the left wing, I am Hitler. Fiscally far left, culturally centrist, socially retarded. But if you really must—
that was not in good taste. Fiscally far left, okay, fine. Socially centrist? What are you talking about here, man? I guess this is what being on TikTok and Instagram and like finding random clips to make fun of progressive people will get you, right? Or make fun of the libs, right? She's basically another libs of TikTok. I'm gonna go on TikTok, I'm gonna go on Instagram, find fun clips, and we're gonna have a little chuckle about them. Chortle, chortle, chortle. I'm socially centrist, and I'm socially R-worded.
put me in a box, it's
While she drinks a Monster Energy drink out of a wine glass.
not that hard to pin me down. I'm a populist. Think Huey Long if he was a 5'3" Italian New Yorker woman who still did her hair and makeup like it was 2008. Put a pin in that Huey Long name, by the way. He's gonna come up later. I grew up in the 90s and the 2000s. My political awakening was jibjab.com. The first time I voted for Obama.
I'm sorry. Honestly, no one really gives a fuck about your political history. I don't think it's interesting to talk. It's like when couples are gonna be like, oh, do you want to know how we met? And then to borrow a joke from Larry David, let me guess how it ends. You got together. Yeah, let me guess how it ends. You end up being like this. No one really gives a fuck about how you got there.
Ready for that hope and change. Instead, we got the crushing of Occupy Wall Street and more drone strikes. And from there, it only got worse. I voted for Bernie in the primaries in 2016, and I watched as the Democratic Party did everything in their power to destroy this man twice. So it is safe to say I am a little biased when it comes to the Democratic Party, but I don't think I've hated them more than I do right now. The truth is, my last video was way meaner and way harsher than the final product turned out to be. When I showed the video to my assistant, he basically had an intervention with me and he was like, listen, you need to soften this up a bit. It's a few days before the election. You went too hard. Well, the election is over. And I'm sorry, River, but I'm going hard. You idiots. You morons. You imbeciles. Kamala Harris? Really? That's who you threw up there? The one who dropped out before Iowa? The one who got blown the f*** out by
A shadow of Tulsi Gabbard looms over Harris ahead of Tuesday's debate.
Tulsi Gabbard? Why didn't you hold a primary? Aren't you the f***ing saviors of democracy? Where the f*** was the democracy? Oh, big congratulations to Tim Walz on being the first white male DEI hire. It didn't f***ing work. The DNC—
Okay, so Tim Walz is not the first white male DEI hire. Joe Biden's been a white male DEI hire. George Bush is. Mitt Romney was. Every single fucking president has been a white male DEI hire. Both the Democrats and the Republicans realize that America is a white supremacist country, thus we must run white people. It's also a very sexist country, thus we must run white men. And that's what they've done. Obama surprisingly broke through that mold. Who did he have as his vice president? Oh, straight white guy. That is kind of racist. Like Joe Biden, like there's a reason why he sponsored the crime bill when he was in the Senate. Yeah, so saying that Tim Walz is the first DEI hire is a little bit telling. And what is it telling? Well, it's telling that ShoeOnHead, like the topic of race and gender, is very on the front of her mind. She's very focused on that, and obviously she calls it out because like there's a juxtaposition between Tim Walz and Kamala Harris, and that was a big talking point. Who is Kamala Harris going to pick as her running mate? That was like the biggest talking point of the election, and they went with Tim Walz, and people were like, oh, of course they go with him because he's like the folksy white straight guy who is a teacher and he understands farming and he's like all around handyman. So yeah, there's a reason, like people were talking about that, but it's just an ignorant statement to say that he's the first DEI hire. In terms of the primary, Kamala Harris did not lose because people were disillusioned with the Democratic Party's democracy status. They did not look at that primary and say, wow, this wasn't very democratic of a process. Kamala Harris, she just got in there and no one really voted for her in the primaries. That's not democratic, thus I'm not going to vote for her. That's not the reason. That's not the reason why she lost. Sam Cedar said this, so shout out to Sam Cedar. He made the argument that primaries are extremely important for parties, not because it lets voters know that the democratic process is working, and this magical democratic process that happens whenever you vote in the primary, where ultimately like democracy will prevail. It's like the Always Sunny thing, reason will prevail. So it's not that they have this understanding that democracy is working and they just love democracy so much they love to see the gears turning as it churns along and turns along. It's the fact that in a democratic party, like in a primary process, the candidates are getting a lot of media attention put on them. And not only does that make them more famous, but it gets the party to coalesce around one person by the end of the primary. It not only informs voters of what's going on, but it informs other party members of what the direction the party is going into. So when Kamala Harris just got handed the nomination, not only did she not get a lot of press coverage, a lot of voters like simply did not even realize that she was no longer the vice president, but it also left the Democratic Party kind of rudderless. It left them leaderless. And now we're extremely leaderless because as the Democratic Party was just beginning to coalesce around Kamala Harris, she lost, and now she's tarnished goods. No one's going to want to like run her back in the future. So yeah, when ShoeOnHead talks about how Tim Walz is a DEI hire and Kamala Harris didn't win democratically, and thus like aren't you supposed to be the party of democracy? It's just uninformed, and it's not very like intelligent political analysis whatsoever.
Completely neutered that guy, reduced him to this weird token white man. Hello, fellow men, I too play football. But hey, men weren't the only demographic you completely dropped the ball with. Trump made incredible gains with women too. Oh, and all those never Trumpers you tried to court, the people who like the old respectable GOP. You know, the old respectable GOP that led us into a pointless war that cost us trillions of dollars and millions of lives. But we're at least nice on Twitter. That GOP. Yeah, they didn't come out and vote for your ass either. So you got Liz Cheney to tag along for what? For f***ing what? You raised $1 billion and ended up $20 million in debt? Where the hell did all that money go? Maybe you should have blown it all on celebrity appearances that did f***ing nothing. Or maybe it was...
Okay, I kind of agree with that point, right? That the Democratic Party really did not do a good job of campaigning. They did not spend their money wisely. They totally outraised Republicans and they outspent them as well, but they did not get a return on investment for that spending. And this is just one thing that we do need to talk about. It's not the fact that Tim Walz is a token white man and their outreach to white men failed because they weren't sincere about it. Sure, they got a white guy as a president, but that's not, or as a vice president, but that's not sincere in actually reaching out to white men. Tim Walz should have been like a larger force in campaigning. But again, this is an issue in the type of campaigning that Kamala Harris did. It's not that she didn't have a primary. It's not that she's not white and they like chose a white guy, but that's tokenizing white people, right? It's not because of that. There's an issue in the campaigning. Kamala Harris started off this campaign season in a deficit. She only had a few months, whereas Donald Trump had years and years to prepare for it. She did not have a primary, so she did not have all of that media attention that Donald Trump had. I mean, the Republican primaries were like a soap opera for months. Is Ron DeSantis going to usurp Trump? Oh, now Nikki Haley's surging. Now Vivek's in there. You had all of this drama that was going on in the Republican primary. The return of Mike Pence. Wow, what's going to happen when Trump confronts them? So much attention, and then when Trump blows them all out of the water, when the voting actually starts, all of that attention gets transferred onto Donald Trump's shoulders. So he greatly benefited from that, even though he didn't directly take part in it. Kamala Harris did not have that. She did not have the attention of a primary. And let's just be honest, the fact that she's a woman and not a white person also sets her back a peg. So she does need to like work back. She needs to work up. She starts like 5 feet below ground, but she needs to fight her way out of that. And she just didn't do enough. Like if your candidate starts on the back foot, you need to recognize that fact and then really work your ass off to overcome that deficit that you're starting with. And she just straight up didn't do that, unfortunately.
Spending 6 figures on a single-use set for the Call Her Daddy podcast that didn't even hit 1 million views. I want to see a full audit of this campaign, because I wouldn't be surprised if this was all like a big money laundering scheme, because honestly, that makes more sense than this being a legitimate presidential campaign. Then, they had the audacity to beg their supporters for money after she lost. How about you? How about every DNC consultant should have this map sewn onto the inside of their eyelids? May they never have a peaceful wink of sleep for the rest of their miserable lives. So that is how I feel about the whole situation. But what do Democrats and the media think? What do they think the Harris campaign did wrong? Why do they think Kamala lost?
I think Harris ran a really good campaign. If there's one person I do not blame for this loss, it is Vice President Harris.
This is gonna be a long fucking video. The media this morning saying Dems need to have a reckoning. No, we don't. We can't be blamed because we expected Americans to be who they always claim they are. Democrats don't have a messaging problem. America has a racism problem. Kamala ran a flawless campaign in 100 days, and I refuse to let y'all gaslight me into believing anything other than that. She lost because she's a woman, and a black one at that.
I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign.
Listen, I'm no political analyst, but losing seems like a pretty big flaw. Truly, don't overthink it.
Okay, so that's funny, right? Losing seems like a pretty big flaw. And that's not a flaw in the campaign. Like, you could have criticized the campaign for having a lot of flaws. Not campaigning aggressively enough against Republicans. Not actually addressing the material conditions that we're in. I mean, if you're a leftist that voted for Bernie Sanders, why aren't you criticizing the campaign for, like, separating from Biden? The campaign didn't call out the genocide that's happening in Gaza. They did not separate themselves from Biden on that. Again, there's a lot of flaws in the campaign, but Shoe doesn't actually really address any of the problems. And just one thing to talk about with this. So, again, the whole like premise and general vibes of these tweets that ShoeOnHead is showing is that the campaign was fine. America's racist. America's sexist. Now, listen. Do I think it's true that Kamala Harris lost because she's black and she's a woman? Honestly, yes, I do. I think if you took a straight white man and put her at the head of that campaign, even with the lack of primary, even with the genocide that's going on, I think that guy beats Donald Trump pretty easily. I don't think it's like that close. I mean, Kamala Harris was extremely close against Donald Trump, and she's a black woman. And she had all of these things stacked against her. And I don't think she campaigned insanely well. I think she campaigned fine. But it wasn't like, wow, that's like a once-in-a-lifetime candidate. She wasn't that likable. She didn't have that many issues that she was campaigning on. And she had some pretty glaring flaws in her campaign, like the fact that she was tied at the hip with Joe Biden, like the fact that Joe Biden was funding a genocide in Palestine. So if a white guy took that over with all of these flaws, I think he would have won, to be honest. However, we need to understand, like, the point of being a campaign analyst and campaign manager is recognizing the fact that you are starting like a step back because of the color of your skin and your gender. And then you need to campaign even harder because of that. And that is essentially what white privilege is, right? When people look at Kamala Harris, what is the first thing they see? They see black and woman. Those are like the first two things they see. And it is like the epitome of white privilege to be looked at and have people see you as like a leader if you're running for the presidential role. Have people see you as a protector, or have them see you just like as a person rather than black and woman, having those descriptors put in front of you. So if Kamala Harris was a white man, would she have won? Yes, I do believe so. Could Kamala Harris have won even with being a black woman? Yes, I also think so. Was her campaign flawless? It was not. Was it good enough to win? I think it was if she was a white person. However, she's not. And like, again, we need to reconcile with that fact. So both things are true, right? Sexism, racism definitely played a role, but you should still be able to overcome those things if you are campaigning well, essentially.
It's because she's a woman, she's a black woman. Don't overthink it. In fact, don't think about it at all.
And Kamala Harris.
So that's ironic. ShoeOnHead is saying don't think about it at all. Has ShoeOnHead analyzed any of these tweets other than just reading them off? She's like basically doing what Brett Cooper is doing, right? Here's a tweet from a random person whose name I've blocked out. Isn't that funny? Aren't they stupid? And then just goes on to the next thing, not even talking about why they're funny or why they're stupid.
Lived up to our dreams. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. She ran a remarkable 107-day emergency campaign full of joy and hope.
Kamala Harris was the perfect candidate, and she ran a beautiful campaign of joy, empathy, and unity. Joy and empathy and unity doesn't motivate people to go to the polls. No wonder Republicans had incredible turnout and so many Democrats stayed home. This isn't Steven's universe. You just can't like joy and empathy and unity your way out of not being able to afford food for your family. CNN has a story titled, "Where the Harris Campaign Went Wrong." Nope. I won't read it. Harris ran a great campaign. The story should be titled, "Where the American People Went Wrong." La la la, I can't hear you. La 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 la, I can't hear you. It's not me, it's you. La 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 la. The cope is unreal here. They don't even want to listen to criticism. They really think they did absolutely nothing wrong. They only see this as a Trump win and not a Democrat failure. Kamala Harris was not a flawed candidate. America is a flawed country. This incredible tweet here is from Shannon Watts, who is on the board of Emerge America, which is an organization that, quote, shows Democratic women how to run for office. Yeah, we're never getting a female president.
So that's funny, right? It's like the one person that she actually goes into the background of, and I mean, it's a political analyst, which, like, I'm glad ShoeOnHead actually found someone there, but yeah, she's not doing that for anyone else. Like, all of those other people are just randos.
He's lived up to so many of the promises he's made. There's one promise left that he could fulfill, being a transitional figure. He could resign the presidency in the next 30 days, make Kamala Harris the president of the United States. Whoa. It would absolve her.
Wow. What the is this Make-A-Wish president shit? Like she's a little kid who wants to play pretend. Oh, just let her for a few days. What? Please tell me we're not gonna get the first female president out of pity. Well done, America. You failed them both. The people cannot let politicians down.
What's okay? I mean, she cut that guy off. That guy, I don't know what the point that guy was trying to make, but let's just be honest. It would be kind of funny if Joe Biden's like, "See you later, Jack. I'm going off to Martha's Vineyards with my wife," and he just made Kamala Harris the president. Like, I think that would be fucking hilarious. Like why not? Donald Trump's printing all of that merch of like number 47, and then you just shift it up to 48. Like, go fuck yourself, Trump. You're 48.
That's not how this works. As a politician, you are not owed anyone's vote. You have to earn it, and evidently she didn't earn it. We already went through this in 2016. Donald Trump beat both female candidates. Donald iron sealing Trump. It's not our fault the female candidates you're putting up are dog shit. Give us some good female candidates and maybe people will vote for them. At this rate, the first female president is going to be a Republican. Mark my words, it's bound to happen. And if it doesn't happen, this was a joke. One of the groups that showed up overwhelmingly for Trump was Latinos. One of the major stories of the results is the significant surge in support for Trump among Latino voters. Trump nearly erased the Democratic advantage in this group, narrowing the gap from 33 points to just 8. Democrats gonna build the wall 50 times higher after that one. We have to have a very, very uncomfortable conversation about Latino voters in this country.
Jesus Christ, that was an ominous picture to go along with that tweet. And then just one thing about like the candidate. Again, I don't think that Kamala Harris was a particularly bad candidate. I think Hillary Clinton was bad because she had a lot of baggage attached to her. There was like decades and decades of people pushing back against the Clintons and making fun of them, having like so much political capital aimed against the Clintons. No one like that. Kamala Harris was essentially a dark horse. No one was really expecting her to run. The issue is her campaign. Like, I don't think her candidacy, her as a candidate, was particularly bad, but her policies just didn't hit, and her campaign strategy was not that good.
Watching him deport the Latinos and the Arab Americans after they voted for him. And Cinco de Mayo.
To all you Latinos that voted for Trump, I hope he...
Some Latinos voted for Trump. Fuck Cinco de Mayo. That's just funny. Dude, this is actually fucked up, though. Like, I hope that he mass deports you and your entire family. So I have a cousin that voted for Trump, and I'm undocumented. That means I get deported. That's what these people are saying. I didn't even vote for Trump.
Mass deports you and your entire family, whether you were here legally or not. You gotta go.
I know for a fact that most Latinos for Trump have undocumented family members. So if you know of a Latino who voted for Trump, I urge you to call this number and report said family members.
Bro, that's so fucked up. Holy shit. Literally advocating for Latinos family members to get deported just because like their cousin voted for Donald Trump. That's messed
Trump's
up.
strongest soldiers. Spiteful liberals.
A district that's 97% Latino went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
It's on the border.
It's
the border
misogyny.
crisis is on their doorstep.
So
and they were begging people to care about it for years. We need to take some less.
That's what that was.
Another demographic for people that overwhelmingly showed up to vote against Kamala were Muslims. In a Michigan-specific poll of 500.
Oh, interesting. Is ShoeOnHead going to like start talking about the war in Gaza or not the war in Gaza, but the genocide that's happening? And then just one thing about that last clip. There's a lot of misogynistic Latino men. Like there's a lot of misogynistic men in general of every type of like ethnic group, but Latino men, like they're fairly Christian, they're fairly conservative, and misogyny goes hand in hand with those two. So
another demographic for people that overwhelmingly showed up to vote against Kamala were Muslims. In a Michigan-specific poll of 502 registered Muslim voters, Stein got 59% support, followed by Trump at 22%, and Harris with a tiny 14% of the vote. The results show significant backlash to the Biden administration's handling of Israel's brutal war in Gaza, which has killed at least 43,508 Palestinians, including more than 16,765 children, as well as how the Harris campaign chose to tackle the issue. So how exactly did they tackle that issue? Why, sending that old pervert freak Bill Clinton up to Michigan to talk down to Muslims about Palestine.
Okay, so Kamala Harris chose to tackle the issue in a certain way, right? What was that? Well, it was basically doing nothing. We need to have a ceasefire, she would say, but when it came down to it, she or Joe Biden was like unwilling to do anything to actually make Netanyahu do a ceasefire. And instead of talking about that, like the lack of ceasefire and the actual people that are dying, ShoeOnHead decides to talk about Bill Clinton, who, yeah, this was a really stupid thing that the Democrats did, having Bill Clinton go talk to Muslim voters in Michigan. But that's not why Muslim voters didn't vote for Kamala Harris. They didn't vote for her. They weren't on the fence, and then they saw Bill Clinton, and they're like, Bill Clinton, didn't he have an affair with a secretary? I'm going to vote for Donald Trump now. That's That's not what happened. They had already made up their mind. They're not voting for her because of the genocide, not because of Bill Clinton.
I understand why young Palestinian and Arab Americans in Michigan think too many people have died. I get that. But
Muslims really said, we hate you more than the guy that talked about a Muslim ban. Just a side note, look at this fucking guy. It's like he hasn't had his daily dose of adrenochrome in a week. Someone get this man a fresh child stat. Muslims, Latinos, who else are we gonna blame? Ah yes, women. Yes, Trump improved with young men, but he drew in young women too.
Wow, look at that. 52% of all women who look like me are f***ing stupid.
Despite making abortion the #1 issue in her campaign,
Okay, that's just kind of accurate though. Like, if 52% of white women voted for Trump, I mean, again, criticizing the voters, but it is kind of dumb. Like, it's just not informed if you vote for Trump. It's just an ignorant choice to vote for Trump because he's objectively going to make life worse for everyone that isn't a millionaire.
brat summer, despite the white women for Harris Zoom calls, and most of all, despite the Taylor Swift endorsement, Harris only managed to get +8 with women. Despite it all, many women came out to support Trump, especially Gen Z women. In 2020, 30% of young women voted for Trump. In 2024, 40% of young women voted for Trump. In fact, so many women voted for him that women on TikTok started wearing blue bracelets to signal to other women that they were one of the good ones who didn't vote for Trump.
Swifties, I'm buying as many blue beads and blue hearts as I can, and I'm gonna make bracelets, so we know who we can trust.
Yeah. Anyway, some young women...
Okay, so again, like I made a comment on it earlier, but this is why I don't like ShoeOnHead's content. She just will play a random person or find a random tweet from Twitter, find a random TikTok, and just throw it up there and be like, haha, look, isn't this person stupid? And then not talk about it any further. If people want to make blue bracelets because they're in a dark place and they want to have some like support in their lives, and it's just like a cool, fun, inside jokey type thing, let them do it. Like, I don't understand how that is an example of how the Democrats lost. They lost because they're saying they want to make blue bracelets to identify Swifties that voted for Kamala Harris. I don't understand the criticism of that at all. And I mean, maybe I'm too nice, right? Maybe I'm too nice to people. But if someone says I want to make a bracelet for like people that think like me, what's the harm in that? If someone's saying 52% of people that look like me are fucking stupid, that's just funny. Like, how is that making the Democrats lose? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know, Shoe. You're making it so hard. You're making it so hard to know things.
Victory are starting to get into the 4B movement. A movement started in South Korea. Basically, MGTOW for women. Women giving up on dating men, having sex with men, having babies, marriage, whatever.
Okay, so she says the 4B movement is MGTOW for women. What is MGTOW? I didn't even know. Men going their own way. Men going their own way, MGTOW, is an anti-feminist, misogynistic, mostly online community advocating for men to separate themselves from women and society, which they believe has been corrupted by feminism. The community is a part of the Manosphere, a collection of anti-feminist websites and online communities that also include the men's rights movement, incels, and pickup artists. Like other Manosphere communities, MGTOW overlaps with the neo-reactionary alt-right movement and has been implicated in online harassment of women. The Southern Poverty Law Center categorizes MGTOW as a part of the male supremacist ideology. So, okay, let's just read the 4B Wikipedia article. But if, MGTOW overlaps with the neo-reactionary alt-right movement and has been implicated in online harassment of women and is a part of the male supremacist ideology. I don't think 4B is harassing men, like commenting on Chris Hemsworth post, oh, he'd never date me, I want to rape him. I don't think that's what the fucking 4B is doing. Oh, 4B or 4-note, that's what B means. So it's a radical feminist movement that originated in South Korea. The name refers to its defining four tenets, which all start with the Korean language term bi, roughly meaning no. Its proponents do not date men, get married, have sex with men, or have children with men. The movement emerged during the mid-late to 2010s on Twitter and on the website WOMAD. The movement is considered to be fringe in South Korea with estimated membership around 4,000. Dude, wait, are there like card-carrying members of the 4B movement? That's hilarious. In South Korea, a portion of its members, particularly those who are associated with the openly misandric women, WOMAD, were described as transphobic and homophobic. Wow, great. So, I guess the people are like pretty shitty that are in the 4B movement. Who knew having a like reactionary worldview leads you down some dark paths? All right, what is this? Straight women, this is the time to look into the 4B movement. You do not need a man, I promise. Okay, well, no one needs a man, no one needs a woman. It's kind of nice to have someone though, right? Doing my part as an American woman by breaking up with my Republican boyfriend last night and officially joining the 4B movement this morning. You're going to get your card emailed in the mail or you're going to get your card mailed out to you in 4 to 7 business days. So, man, okay. So I don't think she's officially joining the 4B movement. I think that's a joke, right? Breaking up with my Republican boyfriend. Now I'm single. I'm going to join the 4B movement.
We are taking coochie off the table indefinitely.
Cancel all future plans.
Bro, that's like a 1-second clip of someone's shoe. Oh, and then here we go, my favorite. Nameless Reddit posters. 386 upvotes on Reddit. That must mean that the movement is alive and well in America.
With men. 4B is where it's at. Use their own stupid traditional views against them. Say that you don't want sex before marriage. Say that you are waiting for the right man. They will be seething because they are sexually dependent on women who they call sluts. See, this is the best angle. No sex before marriage. Give them what they voted for. So conservatives won the election and women are threatening to not sleep around. It kind of seems like the conservatives won a little more than just the election. I might do a whole video on the 4B movement.
Yeah, so she's going to make that joke and then just walk on from there. Again, like no analysis whatsoever. Extremely shallow surface level stuff from Shoe. It's like these videos are really shitty. But what does it say? Use their own stupid traditional views against them. Say that you don't want sex before marriage. Say that you are waiting for the right man. They'll be seething because they are sexually dependent on women who they call sluts. So they say use their own stupid traditional views against them. They're obviously talking about conservatives, right? Because the conservatives are the ones that want to have this traditional marriage. I am a part of a traditional marriage where my wife stays home and she gets pregnant and she cooks for me, she cleans for me. I get to go off and do things, and I have a slave at home that takes care of my kids and that I can have sex with. That's what a traditional marriage is. I honestly don't understand what ShoeOnHead is talking about when she says that Republicans are happy that women are not sleeping around. Even guys that say they want a traditional marriage want to have sex before marriage. So they like fraternizing with women. It's not. I don't know. Like people don't want to have a traditional marriage in the sense that they want the bad things that come with it. So these people are just calling out conservative hypocrites. And then she was like, yeah, well, we successfully slut-shamed and Donald Trump won. The conservatives are rolling in it.
So conservatives won the election and women are threatening to not sleep around. It kind of seems like the conservatives won a little more than just the election. I might do a whole video on the 4B movement.
Also notice what she's ignoring, right? A lot of these people are talking about how they're not having sex with Republicans. They're saying, don't have sex with someone who has a traditional view in marriage. I just dumped my Republican boyfriend. She's not talking about that part, right?
Tell me if you're interested in that. I don't know. Anyway, young men did come out and support Trump, and apparently for the reasons I and many others predicted. We asked young men why they voted for Donald Trump. Here's what they said. Nick Sumners, a 21-year-old cosmetic car repairman from Virginia, says he is pro-choice, but when he voted in the 2024 presidential election, he did so for Donald Trump. Despite his personal beliefs, he says that Trump talks about the American people in a way that resonates with him, without, in his opinion, faulting him for his gender and sexual orientation. I'm a straight white man.
Okay, so, I mean, before even reading this part here where it says, I'm a straight white man, you can tell that this guy's white, right? And this is what I'm talking about when I say that when people look at Kamala Harris, they see black, they see woman as the first things they see about Kamala Harris. This is the deficit that Kamala Harris needs to work her way out of. I mean, she lost. She needed to work her way out of this. People in America are racist, they're sexist. When they see a black woman, they're going to have the initial feeling of, I don't want to vote for her because I see black, I see woman. That's not the type of leader I am that's not the type of person I associate with being a leader. That's not like the mental image of a leader that comes to mind. In fact, like that's a very specific demographic group that has had like the worst oppression, and basically like you have horrible expected health outcomes if you are a black woman in America. And I think that's a pretty good reflection of how society treats you as a whole. So people are going to come up with any excuse in order to have a reason to vote against you. Kamala Harris did not talk about her gender. She did not talk about her race in this presidential election at all. So why is this guy saying that he feels that he's voting for Donald Trump so that he doesn't have to worry about gender and sexual orientation? What does he say? Donald Trump talks about the American people in a way that resonates with me without faulting me for my gender and sexual orientation. That's essentially what this guy, Nick Sumner, said. So the implication there is that Kamala Harris is faulting him for his gender and sexual orientation. And Kamala Harris did not mention gender or sexual orientation at all. So the reason he's thinking that is because she's black, right? Or she's a woman. You can also talk about the Republican messaging in that, but essentially the Republican messaging goes pretty much hand in hand with that innate sexism and racism that a lot of Americans do have, which is obviously learned. It's not like innate to them biologically, but so yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This is just the essence of white privilege, and people do anything. They'll just say anything to come up with a reason to not vote for Kamala Harris.
And I feel like we take the blame for a lot of things. Of course there are bad guys, he adds, insisting that he's not one of them just because he voted for Trump. But what appealed to him about Donald Trump was that his campaign was not coming after us. He was highlighting the American people, which we are. It doesn't matter what color you are, what you may identify as. Since I wasn't excluded, I resonated with it. When you tell a young white...
Okay, so when someone complains about being excluded from the left, that is code for, I'm a fucking conservative and I need a reason to be it. You're like basically a conservative liberal, right? You're not willing to be upfront about your conservatism, but the left is just not letting me be a leftist. They're not letting me vote for Kamala Harris, so I'm voting for Trump. Same exact thing with Ethan Klein. Same exact thing with Cenk and Anna, where they're complaining about how the left is too exclusive. I can't support these guys. I can't support trans people. I can't, the left is pushing me away because I am with you 99% of the way. I just don't think trans women should be able to play in sports. The left is pushing me away, though, because they're purity testing too much. So that's a dead giveaway that you are becoming a grifter. So that is it's just funny. When you tell a young white guy hey, you're an oppressor, and because you're white, you have privileges that your black and Hispanic peers didn't have, and you're inherently at fault, or you're guilty for that, which is what a lot of the left wings or Democrats are saying. They're going to reject that. He says, we're not racist, we're not misogynistic, we're just normal people, and we are friends with everyone. We're tired of hearing a lot of this BS from the far left. So he wasn't hearing that from the far left. He wasn't hearing that from Kamala Harris. I don't know if he's putting Kamala Harris into the far left camp. I don't know what circles he runs in, but people are not criticizing you for being a fucking racist. But you did vote for Donald Trump, so you're a little bit racist. Okay, I'm just going to say that.
Guy, hey, you're an oppressor, and because you're white, you have privileges that your black and Hispanic peers didn't have, and you're inherently at fault, or you're guilty for that, which is what a lot of the left wings or Democrats are saying. We're not racist, we're not misogynistic, we're just normal people, and we are friends with everyone. We're tired of hearing a lot of this BS from a lot on the far left. I feel like there's this cultural frustration that young men have that they're not allowed to be young men. I hope the male loneliness epidemic eats you MAGA scum alive. I hope you feel a hole in your soul and feel unloved until your dying day. I hope you rot in your deathbed wondering why women looked at you like you had rabies your whole life as your eyes closed for the last time. Unfortunately,
bro, that tweet goes hard, man. Before your eyes close for the last time. I mean, also, she's not attacking men in general. She's attacking people that voted for Donald Trump, and specifically MAGA people.
Soul and feel unloved until your dying day. I hope you rot in your deathbed wondering why women looked at you like you had rabies your whole life as your eyes closed for the last time. Unfortunately, the all men suck branding just isn't good for getting men to ally with you. Oh no, it can't be! Is that the consequences of my own actions?
Okay, so what we need to talk about here is that Kamala Harris did not come into this campaign with an all men suck branding. ShoeOnHead is finding random people on Twitter and saying that all men suck. You can do that for literally anything. You can do that for like the Nike brand. And, oh, people are burning Nikes. Do you think that's smart, Nike? Do you think that's smart marketing? People are burning your shoes and you want people to buy your shoes, Nike? What are you doing? Oh my God, it's so... Criticize Kamala Harris for what she did, not what random Twitter people did after the election. Like, this is literally after the election. Does this tweet have a date? 11/6. Okay, so this was after the election, dude.
I hope you rot in your deathbed wondering why women looked at you like you had rabies your whole life as your eyes closed for the last time. Unfortunately, the all men suck branding just isn't good for getting men to ally with you. Oh no, it can't be! Is that the consequences of my own actions? Yes, the reasonable and rational men know you aren't talking about them, but maybe it's time to realize that most men aren't reasonable and rational. How do you speak to young men when they're literally Nazis? Why are Gen Z males the f***ing Hitler youth? How do we get...
Okay, that's actually kind of a valid question, right? Why are Gen Z males like more right-wing than millennial males? How do you speak to young men when they have like such extreme views, like the views that Andrew Tate gave? How do you contact them? Is that something that ShoeOnHead's going to respond to? Is she actually going to do some analysis? This is how you talk to them. Or is she going to just keep getting random tweets, random clips from TikTok, random tweets from Twitter, and not talk about them at all, just throw them up there, read them in a condescending voice, and make fun of them for it?
Young men to get on board with the young men eat shit and die movement. Hear me out. Maybe not calling them Hitler youth. After the election, a YouTuber I am subscribed to uploaded a video called How the Right is Winning Young Men. And I was excited to see his take. But then it comes time to talk about men's issues, and this is how he did it.
But this is the part where I want to enter the male loneliness epidemic. I know. We're all tired of hearing.
The entire idea of the male loneliness epidemic is it's this idea that really centers men and men's feelings. The premise is of quite a flawed premise to begin with.
I agree. I also, I have such mixed feelings about this. I do. Unpopular though it is on the left to like give grace to the male loneliness epidemic. I have mixed feelings about it. I'm picking my words carefully so the leftists don't murder me. Like, don't rake me over the coals for this. But I think that I understand as much as I can understand a heterosexual man.
Yeah, I think we found the answer to the video title. I have to pick my words carefully so my own movement doesn't attack me for caring about men's issues. You see the issue? If you can't talk about this without having to walk on eggshells in fear of your own allies ripping your head off, maybe that is part of the reason men are moving right. Also, I feel like...
Okay, so that's hilarious, right? So ShoeOnHead, she puts up tweets of people that have valid concerns. How do you talk to young men if they're Nazis? Why is Gen Z so far right? Those are some valid questions, right? Instead of answering that, she goes to this podcaster who's like, okay, I'm on the left. I want to talk about this in a way that isn't going to get me like taken down by my audience. And ShoeOnHead, again, doesn't really offer any analysis. And we'll get into like the little bit of analysis that she does offer. But what she does instead is say, oh, I think you found the answer. And she makes a joke. So essentially, what is her joke? Her joke is that the guy's gay and he's talking about men's issues, right? Like, do I need to spell that out for you? She does this whole like gay impression. Oh, I don't want to get ripped apart by my progressive audience. Like, that's kind of the joke, right? That not that he's scared of getting criticized, but because he's effeminate.
I think we found the answer to the video title. Oh, I have to pick my words carefully so my own movement doesn't attack me for caring about men's issues. Yes.
Yeah, and then she's like, do you see the problem? I mean, she didn't just say that he's afraid that he's getting criticized by the right. He did it in a flamboyant, effeminate way. That's the joke that ShoeOnHead's making there. So that's pretty gross from ShoeOnHead. And then the other thing is, the analysis that she does offer is so fucking stupid. I wish that she stayed to making fun of gay people. What is the analysis that she's saying? She's like, it's laughable. It's that men are conservative because Democrats or because like leftist people are saying, why are men conservative? And it's like, well, men are conservative because you're talking about them being conservative. Of course, that's the reason. Maybe men are conservative because you're calling them Nazis. Maybe they're Nazis because you're calling them Nazis. That's what ShoeOnHead's saying. So fucking stupid. So fucking stupid. Okay, let's just get into it here. Since ShoeOnHead's not going to talk about it, I guess I will. Why are younger men turning more conservative? Well, it is true that they're not really getting a great worldview from leftists in terms of, like, leftists aren't really telling them what they want to hear in terms, like, in relation to what the conservatives are telling them. Conservatives are telling them that you can be the fucking, like, white guy with a wife, kids, and a picket fenced house if you go with us and we get rid of immigrants. If you go conservative, you can be like the ripped guy with the hot chicks and the fast cars, and like the kickboxer, you'll have a bruise on your eye, you'll smoke a cigar in one hand and have like a babe in the other. That is what conservatives are offering, and young men are attracted to that, and they're attracted to that idea more so because of the lack of material well-being that they're experiencing. When they cannot afford to go out and socialize with friends, when they don't have the time to go on dates, or they can't afford dates, or they're still living at home, and so it's more difficult for them to meet people and like create these romantic relationships with women, that's going to naturally cause them to like be less sociable with women, withdraw more, and then that plays right into the hands of conservatives. So essentially what I would say is, what is the answer to the male loneliness epidemic? Well, I think the first thing that we need to talk about is trying to make people more social again. We gotta like make them more social, and capitalism is not the answer to that. 4-day work week, that would be a huge start. Public transportation, just like honestly bigger cities with more parks, more public spaces where people can socialize with each other. That's a major start to it. Let's just start there and we can build off of that. But essentially, the more time you spend interacting with women, the less fucking rapey and creepy you're going to be around them.
See the issue? If you can't talk about this without having to walk on eggshells in fear of your own allies ripping your head off, maybe that is part of the reason men are moving right. Also, I feel like this is really important to say.
Yeah, men are not moving right because some people are talking about that they're conservative. That doesn't make any sense.
I don't think all these men are moving right. I think just a lot of them hate the Democratic Party and feel alienated from the left. So what was the overwhelming take?
So when she says hate the Democratic Party, While that's true, because Joe Biden's the president, in 4 years, they're going to be hating the Republican Party. Essentially, they hate the system that we exist under. Both the Republicans and the Democrats serve to uphold that system. We'll see where it is in 4 years after like 4 years of Republican rule. Let's see how much damage the Republicans can do to it. But it's not just young men. Young people in general hate the fucking system that we're under because the system is squeezing the life force out of us. It's not that they hate the Democrats, it's they hate whoever is in power and is representing that system currently. I mean, we've seen swing elections back and forth for like the past decade now. So yeah, again, just like poor political analysis from ShoeOnHead.
Away from the Democrats and the left to actually start listening to men? No, of course not. Instead, their solution once again seems to be we need a liberal Joe Rogan. We need a liberal Joe Rogan, ASAP. We need a left-wing Rogan. Democrats are gonna keep losing until they have their own Joe Rogan, their own Elon Musk, until they create their own alternative to Fox News. People saying Harris should have done Joe Rogan are missing the point. That wouldn't have helped her. Liberals need to build their own Joe Rogan. Oh my god, we need a liberal Joe Rogan. You had a liberal Joe Rogan. His name was Joe Rogan. But he was too edgy, too problematic, said too many no-no words, talked to too many no-no people about no-no topics, and in 2020, when Bernie Sanders went on his podcast and Joe endorsed him, the Democrat journalist class freaked the out and smeared him for weeks. The left can't have a Joe Rogan, because everything that makes Joe Rogan, is not allowed on the left. Kamala Harris ditched Joe Rogan podcast interview over progressive backlash fears. So Joe Rogan was too problematic? But Liz Cheney was fine? Listen, you don't need a leftist Joe Rogan.
Yeah, that's bullshit that she didn't go on Joe Rogan because of progressive backlash fears. Like, I'm calling bullshit on that. I don't think that's why they didn't go on. I think they just thought it was, like, above it. What is this? Kamala Harris ditched Joe Rogan podcast interview. Some Democrats have said Kamala Harris's campaign flubbed its media strategy and was too cautious with alternative outlets. So this is some Democrats. It's not like actually the campaign itself saying it.
Podcast interview over progressive backlash fears. So Joe Rogan was too problematic, but Liz Cheney was fine? Listen, you don't need a leftist Joe Rogan or liberal Joe Rogan. You just need leftists and liberals to go on Joe Rogan. And that means not giving a shit about being canceled by your own movement.
Look, you can have an argument with Rogan, agree with him, disagree with him, but what's the problem going on those shows? I got vilified by some of the Democratic establishment because I went on Rogan's show. Now a lot of other people are doing just that.
Anyways, liberals should start doing podcasts and TikToks and whatever aimed at setting the youth straight. Ah yes, there's nothing the youth enjoy more than being set straight.
We don't have the equivalent of Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson to move that man in a feminist direction. By the way, we should educate men that it's actually really great to live with a strong woman who makes money. It's actually easier. Life is easier.
We're going to be under Republican rule for the next 100 years, aren't we?
Okay, dude. Young men are not watching fucking CNN or whatever that was, MSNBC, and being like, this gray-haired old bastard is saying I need to be educated on this, and then they're becoming more conservative. Again, this is all trickling down from the Democratic Party. So I don't buy the idea that men are being pushed away from the left. Again, it's just people voting against the establishment. They're going to vote against Republicans in 4 years. So the large majority of this video is ShoeOnHead trying to make the case that progressives are pushing young men out of the party. And that is just... It's just not the case. There's no evidence of that at all.
And in a feminist direction. By the way, we should educate men that it's actually really great to live with a strong woman who makes money. It's actually easier. Life is easier.
We're going to be under Republican rule for the next 100 years, aren't we? Trump's win leaves Democrats asking, where are our bro whisperers? We have to make entertaining, engaging content that men want to watch and care about. Then, over time, you pepper in more progressive views. So you want to start a normal podcast and then start sprinkling in propaganda? Should you even be saying this out loud? Dems need to seriously put all their money into creating propaganda networks to compete with the right's massive amount of propaganda. Democrats need their own propaganda machine, and I'm not even joking a little bit. First of all, again, I don't think "we need better propaganda" is something you should be saying out loud. Second of all,
Who gives a fuck, dude? Everyone knows that there's propaganda. I mean, people are literally, like, Elon Musk is bragging about how much he donated to Donald Trump's campaign. Like, I fucking hate this faux liberal outrage that ShoeOnHead has. Should you be saying it's propaganda? Criticize the actual substance of what they're talking about. Yes, Democrats do need to reach out to more, they do need to reach out to more organic outlets. They should, like, encourage more liberal, normal content where people are just doing things, but they're not fucking insane conservative freaks. We need to have that. Like, I don't think a video game should be infested by women-hating conservatives that make fun of immigrants all the time. I'm sorry. Like, fuck Asmongold. I don't think he should be the representation of what all video games are. I'm not saying we need to have, like, billions of dollars piped into it, but sure, have like a leading Democratic politician on to, like, the Majority Report every now and then, on to Hassan. Reach out to more people. This is so, man. I mean, they were starting to do that with, like, the creators for Kamala, but we just need more of that. And we do also need Democratic politicians to go onto these conservative right-wing outlets. They need to go on to Patrick Bet-David, go on to Joe Rogan, and push back against the shit that they're spewing. Because I guarantee you, Joe Rogan's audience doesn't know what the fuck Kamala Harris values. They do not know anything that Kamala Harris has to say.
Democrats already have that, and have had it for decades. It's called Hollywood. It's called every celebrity, every institution, every piece of media, from movies to...
It's so fucking dumb, dude. We're not talking about movies. We're talking about podcasts, like the new media, the new media environment that we exist in. You should know this, ShoeOnHead. Like, she's just playing dumb.
Video games. Every celebrity from Beyonce to Taylor Swift endorsed her. She had Cardi B at all her rallies. She got the fucking Avengers together.
Hi, you guys. Hi, Avengers.
Wait, is ShoeOnHead actually going to make the claim? Is she going to make the argument that celebrity endorsements are just as powerful as going on to Joe Rogan and getting 45 million views in front of an audience that historically the Democrats have struggled to reach? Is she going to make that claim?
Avengers.
Hey, Scarlett.
Wow, Trump is literally Thanos. By the way, with all these, like, journalists and people talking about how we need a liberal Andrew Tate, a liberal Joe Rogan, yeah, be prepared to see some of the most forced, overproduced, astroturfed streamers and YouTubers to pop up overnight and subtly or not so subtly start shilling for the Democratic Party. You're gonna start seeing funded DNC plants all over YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, because they really do think the answer to all of this is more podcasts. All the funding in the world won't buy you an audience. You could have $1 million set and the best sound and video equipment ever, but it will not buy you a large and dedicated audience. I've been using a Mac laptop webcam and a shitty snowball mic for over 10 years, and you idiots keep coming back for some reason. And listen, it's 2024. Y'all have a camera and a microphone. Be the liberal Joe Rogan you want to see in the world. But the thing is, if people can hear your opinions when they turn on the TV, they're not gonna watch your shit. People tune into alt media to hear alt opinions. Even the most popular left...
No, they don't. People don't watch TV because they don't have TVs. People watch Joe Rogan because, like, he's on the medium that people go on to. Sure, like, maybe they like the things that he's saying, like Asmongold is conservative and people like when he trashes immigrants. That doesn't mean there's not going to be a market for someone who plays video games and he's not a conservative freak. There's going to be places for that. And the whole point of, like, the Democrats embracing this new media is so that there's not, like, pipelines that all lead into this conservative, like, cesspool with Joe Rogan, Asmongold, like the Paul podcast. Like, what the fuck is going on? It seems like the end point of pretty much every avenue online is conservative, just disgustingness.
Streamers like Hassan, for example, spend a lot of time criticizing the Democratic Party. So it's gonna be hard to build some kind of, like, Democrat shill Joe Rogan. But I can't wait to see you try. After the election, one of the only—
Well, yeah, that too. I mean, let's just be honest. It shouldn't be the Democrats just changing the media environment. It should also be the media environment changing the Democrats. If the Democrats want to appear on more leftist and progressive podcasts, they should have to change their policies to better match the audience that those people have. I think that's like a win-win for both people. If like progressive podcasts can have more funding and more access to like the party elite, and that's a good thing. And if the party elite will change because now they actually have to reconcile with what these progressive people are pushing, that's also like a huge win.
only politicians I've seen who is actively trying to understand why people voted the way that they did is AOC. When I met her, I whispered into her ear, "Take the pronouns out of your bio." And she did. My influence. Anyway, after the election, AOC found out that a ton of people voted for her down ballot, but also voted for Trump for president on the same ticket. Curious, she took to her Instagram to ask people why they did that. And these were some of their answers. "I feel like Trump and you are both real. It's real simple. Trump and you care for the working class. But also you signified change. Trump signified change.
Are you not going to analyze what these tweets are saying? Is ShoeOnHead really going to uncritically post a guy saying Trump cares for the working class?
Were some of their answers. "I feel like Trump and you are both real. It's real simple. Trump and you care for the working class. But also you signified change. Trump signified change. I've said lately, Trump sounds more like you. Loved ones say you're both straightforward and challenging corruption and broken government. Because it's different than what has been the last 4 years. Something had to go. I feel that you both are outsiders compared to the rest of DC and less establishment. Voted Trump, but I like you and Bernie. I don't trust either party establishment politicians." The replies, of course, were full of people like, "These idiots, these morons, these fools. Most depressing shit I've ever seen. These people sound dumb as hell. Such staggering ignorance and stupidity. The median voter. I hate the median voter. I want to destroy the median voter. Why is the median voter this stupid? I hate the median voter. How could this be real? Americans really are the dumbest gentlemen on earth. This is giving me a headache. I don't understand the median voter." Listen, it's really not that hard to understand. It's populism, honey. It's why when I went to January 6th and told a bunch of boomers I was a Bernie supporter, a ton of them reacted like this.
I think he's one of the few honest people yeah, I think he's honest. He beat Hillary Clinton, and he would have beat Joe Biden, too.
People hate empty suits that sound like they're constantly reading from a script. They want someone who tells it like it is. Someone who fights for the everyman, or at least sounds like they do.
How are you feeling about Trump's upcoming presidency, Trump 2?
I voted for him.
Oh, you like AOC?
Yeah.
Did you vote for her?
Yeah. Remember one thing about why people voted for Trump. They want change.
The average American voter despises the establishment and will vote for anyone who promises to destroy it. And the fact that none of you understand this is a big reason why you lost and will continue to lose until you do understand it. Capiche?
Yeah, so then why have you spent the majority of this video, like 20 minutes of this video, talking about how the left is too exclusionary and it's driving men away from progressive politics? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, obviously we live in a system that people are not happy with. You can just look up any poll about is America going in the right direction, and you'll see that people are vastly unhappy with the system we inhabit. So we need candidates that represent change when we're in a system that people fucking hate. Why have you been... Like, this video could have been like 2 minutes long if this is her point. Nothing she's said up until this point has supported this thesis. And this is why I say, like, she's kind of like a charlatan, right? The majority of her video isn't supporting this at all. The majority of her video is like dunking on leftist people. Or not leftist people, but, you know, liberals that are sad that Donald Trump won. That's what the majority of her video is.
Meetings will continue until the populism improves. How could people have voted for this felon? How could they vote for Trump, especially after January 6th, where he led a bunch of his supporters to destroy that beautiful, shining beacon of hope? Well, first of all, you have to understand that That's not a shining beacon of hope to most people. That is a dirty, disgusting brothel that sold out the future of their children and will probably send them into the next World War. After all the indictments, the mugshots, the committees, the documentaries, people clearly don't care about January 6th. And that might scare some people, but the truth is, a politician that promises safety and affordable food can do 100 January 6s. It's kind of like FDR said, democracy has disappeared in several other great nations, not because the people of those nations dislike democracy, but because they had grown tired of unemployment and insecurity, of seeing their children hungry while they sat helpless in the face of government confusion and government weakness through lack of leadership. Finally, in desperation, they chose to sacrifice liberty in hope of getting something to eat. Speaking of FDR, let's talk a little bit about the guy that FDR stole a bunch of his ideas from, shall we? Someone who the modern Democratic Party should probably try and learn from. That's right, I finally found an excuse to talk about my favorite politician. The man, the myth, the legend, the kingfish himself, Huey Long. Huey Long was the 40th governor of Louisiana from 1928 to 1932. He was a populist member of the Democratic Party and rose to national prominence during the Great Depression. He took on big oil and Wall Street and drastically helped lift Louisiana out of poverty. Long had many supporters and haters, and to this day is celebrated as a populist champion of the people, and at the same time, denounced as a fascist demagogue. To give you a better idea of who Huey was, here are some quotes from the man himself. Corrupted by wealth and power, your government is like a restaurant with only one dish. They've got a set of Republican waiters on one side and a set of Democratic waiters on the other. But no matter which set of waiters brings you the dish, the legislative grub is all prepared in the same Wall Street kitchen. The only difference I ever found between the Democratic leadership and the Republican leadership is that one of them is skinning you from the ankle up and the other from the ear down. But Huey Long wasn't some enlightened.
I mean, can we just talk about today's politics? Because the Republicans now do want to tear down. I mean, the Republicans now are just fascist, and there's a fundamental difference between liberal conservative Republicans and just fascist Republicans. I mean, we can see in Trump's first presidency, he governed as a conservative liberal. He governed like every other Republican did. He was a bit war hawkish. He increased the drone strikes. He cut taxes, drastically increased the deficit. There were literally like fucking establishment goons that would change foreign policy based off of the papers that they would put on his desk and take off his desk. The establishment and like the swamp essentially was running the White House. But now Donald Trump has gotten rid of all of those people. He finally, I mean, I won't say he drained the swamp because now it's even grosser. It's like he drained the swamp and underneath the swamp is just a pile of shit, and that's what Donald Trump's in right now. So yeah, it's gonna like him, Elon Musk, they're just like Vivek Ramaswamy, RFK Jr. They're just gonna strip all of the government away, and it's just gonna be Donald Trump and like Donald Trump trying to amass as much power as possible. That's what's happening now. So with this false conflation between Democrats and Republicans, it is like, while it may have been the case in the past, it's just straight up not the case now. And ShoeOnHead is like unironically running defense for a fascist party by doing this stupid little 1950s ad, or I guess 1940s.
Centrist, no. The man firmly had a side, and that side was the people. I'm for the poor man, all poor men, black and white. They all gotta have a chance. They gotta have a home, a job, a decent education for their children. Every man a king. That's my slogan. When asked if he cared about the bad press he got, Huey replied, "All I care about is what the boys at the forks of the creek think of me." And when Big Oil threatened to leave Louisiana, he said, "If they gotta leave, they can go to hell and stay there." They don't make politicians like this anymore. Politicians used to be like mob bosses. Now they go on Call Her Daddy podcasts. Sad. Huey had many powerful enemies, and because of this, he was assassinated in 1935. His last words were allegedly, "God, don't let me die. I have so much to do." There's a lot of talk online right now about how we need a Joe Rogan for the left and Andrew Tate for the left, but there's also talk about how we need a Donald Trump for the left, and well, Huey Long was exactly that. And to be completely honest, I don't think you people could handle a Donald Trump for the left. You couldn't even handle Bernie Sanders. You called him a sexist and a racist and did everything in your power to crush him and keep him down. But unlike Bernie, Huey Long wouldn't just lay down and take it. Huey Long would scare the shit out of the modern Democratic Party. But if there's anyone they need to take a lesson from, it's him. Alright, time to get out of this costume. I feel like an old hooer. It should come as no great surprise that the Democratic Party, which has abandoned working class people, would find that the working class had abandoned them, Bernie Sanders said in a statement about the results of Tuesday's election. While the Democratic leadership defends the status quo, the American people are angry and want change, and they're right. Will the big money interests and well-paid consultants who control the Democratic Party learn any real lessons from this disastrous campaign? Will they understand the pain and political alienation that tens of millions of Americans are experiencing? Do they have any ideas as to how we can take on the increasingly powerful oligarchy which has so much economic power? Probably not. All the groups that Sanders originally courted, young people, Latinos, the working class, are gone. And I don't know if they're coming back. Maybe this is a one-time thing, maybe it's just because of Trump or inflation, or maybe the meme is coming true. Maybe Republicans are the new party of the working class. Democrats' working class exodus.
What the fuck is she talking about? Why is she not talking about anything that Joe Biden did as president, or like how Donald Trump has bragged about the horrible conditions that he's had his workers experience? Like Elon Musk and Donald Trump were joking about firing unionized workers that were on strike. Joe Biden literally like walked picket lines. He helped settle multiple strikes with like the dock workers strike, the railroad workers strike, the whole big auto strike with Sean Fain. His National Labor's Relation Board is the strongest pro-labor NLRB that we've had this century. He's been nothing but a friend to the working class. And Donald Trump, I mean, it hasn't improved conditions that much. And I mean, even though Joe Biden got endorsed by Sean Fain's union, and he didn't get endorsed by the Teamsters, but like they probably should have. This is just misinformation that ShoeOnHead's saying. Is she really going to make the case that Donald Trump is the new party of the working class? Like, that would be insane if she says that.
Sets off reckoning within party. Democrats, who have long prided themselves as the party for the little guy, instead strengthened their emerging base of financially secure college graduates this election, while a growing number of blue-collar voters embraced Trump and Republicans. Especially alarming for Democrats this election, the exodus of working-class voters from the Democratic Party included not just white voters, but helped Trump make gains with Latino and black men. This realignment crystallized a political reality that is tough for Democrats to swallow. With blue-collar voters flocking away from their party over multiple election cycles, Democrats' refashioned base is becoming more upper-class, urban, suburban, and coastal. It's a narrowed coalition that does not bode well for future elections. To put things into perspective, the Trump coalition is closer to the Obama coalition than the Harris one is. That is crazy. That is wild. That is what we call a potential party switch. And I don't really care about how many leftists or Democrats cope about this. We have better union policies, we have better wages policy. Yeah, that might be true, and I agree, but we don't get to decide who the party of the working class is. The working class does. And if exit polls are anything to go by...
Okay, well, I mean, unions endorsed Joe Biden, and I mean, just wait until the next election when we've had 2 years of Republican rule. I guarantee you the working class will not be supporting the fucking Republicans 2 years down the line. So, again, is this election an endorsement of Republicans and Republican policies? My thesis is no, it's not an endorsement of that. My thesis is that this election is a rejection of liberal policies, and if Democrats can kind of get away from those liberal policies and embrace more like social democracy policies, where we're saying that we're going to have free healthcare, we're saying that we're going to have like public transportation, we're saying that we're going to have even stronger protections for workers, then I think we can see a pretty serious swing back. And I mean, let's just be honest, which party is closer to that versus which party is advocating for firing of striking workers? Like, 2 years with Trump in office, and we'll see who the fucking party of the working class is. ShoeOnHead.
Basic left-wing economic policy is still incredibly popular, People just hate the Democratic Party. White men without college degrees are going to ruin this country. First of all, white men without college degrees built this country, bitch. Second of all, this is
Really? I mean, if you're talking about the slave plantation owners, then maybe. But I think you would talk about like the free fucking labor that we got from hundreds of years of slavery in America.
apparently a real Democratic Party strategist saying this. You want to know how to win 2028? Step 1. Stop listening to freaks like this. The election, if having a degree was a requirement to vote. And this is what the election would look like if everyone was allowed to vote. Oh wait, that's this election. I too hate democracy.
Although I don't want to pretend like there's no voter suppression or no attempts to like reduce the number of voters in this election, because there definitely was. I mean, Republicans have a history of making it more difficult to vote in minority areas, more difficult to vote in blue areas in general. There was like literally hundreds of bomb threats called in on election night. There were literally ballots burned in Portland, Oregon. So, yeah, like if people are acting like this is a free and fair democracy, if everyone was able to vote, no, it's not. It's not. It's really not. And then the other thing is, if we're going to go down that line, then we need to talk about the Electoral College as well, and how there really should not have been a single fucking Republican president for decades. And even though like Trump won the popular vote in this election, he won it by like what, 4 million votes or something like that, something insanely small. I think if we got rid of the Electoral College, things would have been different and Kamala Harris would have won. Call me coping if you want, but there were so many like progressive and leftist people that simply don't vote because they're like, I live in a blue state, so my vote doesn't matter. I think we could have squeezed out enough people to if actually every single vote matters, I think Kamala Harris would have won. I think Democrats like literally can't lose.
And I think Bernie Sanders is wrong. I think
I mean, we can also talk about all of the hundreds of thousands of people that are disenfranchised living in DC, living in Puerto Rico, how they should also be able to vote because the president affects their lives as well.
Relevant question actually is, like, what is wrong with America?
States. Democrats have a smug problem. The day after the election, an NBC News chart circulated on Instagram that highlighting exit poll data showing that the more education you had, the more likely you would vote for Vice President Kamala Harris over President-elect Donald Trump. Some liberals used the occasion to look down upon the icky dummies who were too stupid to know they shouldn't vote for Trump. Yet Trump's victory was both definitive and diverse. He won broad swaths of the electorate, making significant gains in New York and California, and winning over larger percentages of Latino voters and young voters than in 2020. He also won a majority of first-time voters. Large factions of the left condescendingly believe that dumb people are the reason Trump won in 2016 and won again in 2024. And that patronizing, visceral vibe is obvious. It's a massive turnoff to many other voters. It is a mountain smug Democrats have to
I don't even know what that means. Again, it's like, are people not voting for Trump because they're turned off by the Democrats, or are people turned off by the Democrats because the Democrats are being smug because people didn't vote for Trump? So, like, which is it? Are the Democrats causing people to turn away, or is it the fact that people turned away causing the Democrats to be smug? Like, it has to start somewhere. And again, I don't understand how Shoe can have such valid criticism of saying we should actually try to change material conditions for people, and it's like an anti-incumbency election. We need to have more, like, we need to have a charismatic candidate that represents change. That's essentially what she's saying. But then like 90% of this video is her saying that the left is too exclusive, they're too purity testing, and that's driving away voters. The idea that the left is driving away voters and turning them conservative does not support at all your premise that we need like a charismatic change candidate in the future. And I agree with the latter. I think we do need that like Jon Stewart type of figure. But I 100% disagree with the former. People do not get radicalized because they do not have a place of acceptance in the left. It's like it's really stupid to say. And again, doing that is throwing red meat to her audience.
Overcome if they want to reconnect with voters. Once, the coastal liberal establishment had an air of open-mindedness, but now these elites have evolved into the provincial, narrow-minded scolds they once critiqued. All their education has narrowed their worldview. Their credentialism has built themselves a bubble in which to hide from reality. The contempt many liberals and some leftists have for the working class has never been more on display than it is right now. Even coming from some—
What contempt do leftists have for the work? Like, that's literally, I mean, the definition of leftism is essentially like being against the capital owning class and uniting the proletariat in order to have a little bit of like a semblance of equality between resisting against the capital owners. You need to unite the working class in order to have any chance to fight against capital owners. Give me a single fucking example of someone on the left being critical of the working class and sneering at them.
Leftist YouTubers I watch that I know better and spend a lot of their time trying to bring people to the left. Your college degree does not make you any smarter than a working class person without a college degree. And more importantly, don't talk down to a vast majority of the population, because despite how badly you want to believe it, they are not stupid. They are the people who grow your food, build your houses, pave your roads, fix the plumbing in your luxury apartments. And guess what? There are more of them than they are of you. So maybe you people should start listening to them instead of wagging your finger in their faces as if disagreeing with you is some more—
Being working class doesn't make you stupid. Voting for Donald Trump is what makes you stupid. And maybe not stupid in terms of your cognitive abilities are slower than other people's, but stupid as in you are uninformed. And I do think the vast majority of people that voted for Donald Trump are simply uninformed. And if you had a informative conversation with people, like, again, I'm going to shout out my fucking Trump interview because that was kind of fun. If you are going to have an informative conversation with Trump voters where they are genuinely open to learning new things, you can change their mind pretty easily. So yeah, maybe they're not stupid. Maybe their brain doesn't function at a slower pace than non-Trump voters. But do they have less information than non-Trump voters? Are they working with like less cards in their deck than non-Trump voters? Yeah, that's like pretty undeniable.
Moral failing, because it's not. These people aren't all racists and Nazis or whatever. They are normal people. They are the proletariat. They're who you should be fighting for. And they don't believe you are fighting for them. More importantly, there is a difference between being educated and being smart. IQ isn't just about how many books you read or how many words you know. A lot of it is about pattern recognition, and boy did I recognize some patterns here. Maybe you guys should have listened to the bimbo with populist brain rot, because she seemed to be right about a lot of this. If the Democratic Party wants to win another election, they need to start understanding the importance of populism. Drop the divisive identity politics and focus on the bread and butter issues, or you are doomed. Become the party of Huey Long again, or you are doomed. But you know what? Maybe you're not.
I mean, I love how she sets that up as a dichotomy, right? The divisive identity politics versus the populist proletariat working class revolution. Like, since the Democrats didn't do the proletariat revolution in this election, then the implication is they were doing identity politics, and that's why they lost, because they were driving people away. But fucking ShoeOnHead, the Democrats didn't do identity politics this election. They just ran as fucking libs, but they didn't talk about identity politics. They weren't driving people away with their race or gender sexuality. It's not like Kamala Harris walked out nursing a baby with each breast as she walked to the debate stage. I'm a woman and I'm proud. What, does this make you uncomfortable, Donald? That was not front and center at all. It's, again, this video is ridiculous. It's really, I mean, it's just poor. It's poor, and it's not, I don't know. I honestly thought she was going to be a little bit more analytical than this, but she's just been saying the entire time, Democrats need to be populist. They need to stop doing identity politics. That's 37 fucking minutes of this video.
Not doomed. Because if Trump fails to deliver on his promises, or we get like George Bush 3, it's totally possible that the populism vacuum will be open again. Will the Democrats take advantage of this and actually put up a good candidate? No. They're gonna put up like Pete Buttigieg or Gavin Newsom, and the populism vacuum will be filled by people like my Twitter mutual and soon-to-be Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance. That is still so weird. What do I do with this power? Hey, J.D. Best Buddy, I have an idea. It's called Patriot Care, and it's healthcare, but our tax dollars go to it instead of bombs. Doesn't that sound cool? If you can't beat 'em, join 'em. The fact is, this election was a complete rejection of the liberal ideology. Or it was just because of inflation and people want to afford eggs again.
I mean, that is a rejection of the liberal ideology, right? Like, people voted against liberals because the liberal ideology is enabling capitalism, and like, capitalism is an unstable structure. People are seeing this instability in their costs of living, like they cannot afford to live, and thus they're desperate for change. Kamala Harris was not really running on change. She was not running on any meaningful change. She was saying, I'll give you $25,000 to do a house down payment. Wow, great. Thanks a fucking lot. Now it's basically a subsidy for real estate corporations. Good job, Kamala Harris. Like, it's effectively meaningless for people's conditions. And Donald Trump, I mean, he didn't really offer any policies, but he's just saying, I'm gonna like kill a lot of people, and that's gonna make your lives easier. So yeah, there was not. I mean, what ShoeOnHead is saying is the same, and I don't I thought she would be able to recognize that a vote against liberalism is a vote to reduce your egg prices. So I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to gauge how politically aware ShoeOnHead is, because she says some things that I agree with, and then she says other things that makes me think she has no idea what she's talking about. I think she likes the aesthetic of being a liberal, or being like a socialist. That's for sure. That whole shtick where she dressed up as someone from like the 1930s or 40s. She loved doing that.
Yeah, it was probably that. It just kind of sucks to see the party you voted for your whole life, the party you grew up with, just get worse and worse over time. After this, the Democrats are going to move right in the dumbest...
Okay, I mean, they have been kind of getting worse, but they've basically been the same. Like, they've always been liberal, right? And to be fair, Joe Biden was extremely pro-worker. He was the most pro-worker president like this century, in the past 24 years.
Ways they're gonna become like the new neocons, but gay. And I have no idea how a second Trump term is gonna go. I hope it goes well. I don't know. Congrats to...
How does she not know? Bro, Trump's literally been saying what he's gonna do. He's already, like, read Project 2025. Like, they've written out the plan. How do you not know? Are you holy shit, dude.
RFK, I guess. I'll see you guys in the Adderall labor camps. Otherwise known as the concentration camps. Get it? Okay. Anyway. So that is enough of my yapping. Now I want to hear you yap. Why do you think Trump won? And what could the Democrats do to win 2028? Anyway, if you liked this video, please consider subscribing. Also...
Yeah, not subscribing because I didn't particularly like the video. Okay. I might have to, I don't know, this was crazy. I mean, just to do a really quick recap before I shut this off. ShoeOnHead is saying that the Democrats lost because the left is too exclusionary. They're driving away young men because they're saying, why are young men so many Nazis? And she's like, well, they're Nazis because you're saying they're Nazis. That doesn't make any sense. And then she's saying that the Democrats should run on a more populist message, which I agree with. So, but like 99% or 90% of this video was her saying that random people on Twitter and TikTok are being cringe, and that's making young white men leave the left and leave the Democrats. It's so dumb. And I don't know. That's like a pattern that a lot of people that are flirting with conservatism is doing. As I said earlier, it's Chank, it's Anna, it's Ethan Klein. A lot of this stuff that we see all the time. The left is just too pure for me. They drove me away, and now I'm a conservative. Boo-hoo-hoo. Woe is me. Can you, like, give me millions of dollars, please, conservative sugar daddies? Anyway, I don't know. Oh, God. The first comment, Tim Walz misspelled his name. The first white male DEI hire. Brilliant. All right, let's just read a few comments. Let's read all of the ones that Shoe-hearted. So fucking stupid. Like, literally every single fucking politician is a DEI hire. At this point, the first female president will be Republican. Shoe on head dropping the hard truth bombs as usual. Bro, literally every single fucking political pundit has been saying that since the election. It's not a bold, brave take. It's not something new. This has been like on every single channel. Oh my god. Oh my god, dude. This video might actually make me cry. At least Bernie Sanders got to say a big I told you so. Okay, that's kind of, I don't know. It gives me a little bit of hope. Every time I come back to this channel, I am reminded that I don't actually hate politics. I just hate certain people who shouldn't be talking about it. Thanks for being normal. Thanks for being wrong. She's wrong. Democrats forgot they had to be likable. Okay, that's kind of true. You can't hide your monster addiction by putting it on Y class, June. Okay, that's a good point. They will learn nothing and blame everyone. Yeah, unfortunately, that's true. When Bro said, I think Harris ran a really good campaign, I almost clicked off the video by instinct. Then I realized it's ShoeOnHead and I took a deep breath. Yeah. I mean, this video was so much misinformation, right? Saying that Harris didn't run a good campaign when she objectively did, it just wasn't good enough. Like, if she was white, she probably would have won. Donald Trump ran such a bad campaign. He was talking about, oh my god. Like, he's literally joking about, like, he got sued by a fucking union because he's joking about firing striking workers. Bro, I'm gonna lose my mind. How is this the fucking representation that we have, like, in terms of female leftists? What the fuck is going on? And she's just playing to conservatives. That's all that she's doing. What is this? The male loneliness epidemic portion of this video was infuriating. Not because of the man's take, but the dismissal of it by the female on his show. Seems like she has a lot of opinions about how male loneliness centers men and men's feelings and is based on a flawed premise. Yes, please enlighten me with your expertise on male loneliness and why it is bullshit. Anyway, great video, Shoe. I always look forward to it. Yeah, because you need to be a man to understand male loneliness. That's what it says. That's what it is. What do we got? What is ShoeOnHead's response? Taylor Lorenz moment. Pretty sure that was Taylor Lorenz. I don't know. I'm gonna fucking cry myself to sleep tonight. So, anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. I hope ShoeOnHead doesn't drop another video for a long time.